Hello students, how are you? I think you are fine by the grace of Almighty. I am also fine by the grace of Almighty. Welcome to my class and welcome to my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel name is, you already know, Learn with Sultan Joy. So subscribe my channel. So let me introduce at first. You know me very well that I am Muhammad Sultan Mia, lecturer from 36 BCS, Department of English, Shohid Bulbul Government College, Pabna. Okay. So we shall discuss today about the theme writing. Today we shall discuss in Unit 13 and lesson number 1. You know the Unit 13's title is Art and Music. Okay. And lesson 1, its title is What is Beauty? So we shall discuss about beauty. Okay, this is very important. And a poem actually we shall discuss. A poem, I Died for Beauty, by Emily Dickinson. Okay. So first of all, I would like to say about the life and career of Emily Dickinson. So what is the full name of the Emily Dickinson? The full name is Emily Elizabeth Dickinson, and she was an American poet. We know it very little about her life because she lived in a very conservative family and she was also in a very conservative. She was born December 10, 1830, Amherst, Massachusetts. You know, Massachusetts is the states of America. She died May 15, 1886 in the United States. So she was born in America and she died in America also. You know, she was educated Amherst Academy in 1840 to 1847. She wrote more than 1800 poems, okay, but very few poems are published. This poem, I Died for Beauty, this poem was published in 1890. So Dickinson actually lived so much of her life in isolation. That is why the local people actually called her an eccentric woman. She developed likings. She liked to wear the white dresses. The famous color of her was white. She was very reluctant to greet guests. That means she did not mix with other friends. She had a very few chosen family members that she mixed with them. Okay. And she didn't leave her bedroom. She confined in a room. She began to write, but no one knew that she had the capability to write down the poems. She never married. So in her life only 10 poems were published, but after her death the poems were published. She was not popular in her lifetime, but after the death of her life she became popular among the readers. She was very different from other writer, other poet, because she had no influence of other writers, because she was confined in a room. She actually studies and nothing else. She didn't mix with other, even she didn't go out. Her poem is very different, in a very different theme, very unconventional for capitalization and punctuation. Her poem contains very short lines and their meaning is very simple, and many of her poems deal death, spiritual power, immortality, and she also explores in her poetry about aesthetic, about society, nature and spirituality. Okay, so she had a younger sister named Lavinia. She actually discovered her poem after the death. Her first collection of poems are published in 1890. So this is the personal life of Emily Elizabeth Dickinson. So now let us turn on to the poem. So this poem has 3 stanzas, and every stanza there are 4 lines, and you see the lines are very easy. It is not too much difficult. Okay, so the first line is I died for beauty. That means she considered herself as a dead woman. Okay, in the very first line she considered that she is in a grave. She is a dead person. Okay, she is not alive. Think about her imagination. That means she is dead. I died for beauty. That means she died for beauty. Okay, but was scarce adjusted in the tomb. Okay, so scarce means rare, infrequent. That means she didn't adjust in the tomb. Tomb means grave, tomb means burial. Okay, so she considered herself that she is a dead person, but she didn't adjust in the tomb because she didn't like the tomb. She felt an isolation, she felt a very lonely. That is why she didn't adjust it to the tomb. Okay, and the next line, when one who died for truth was laid in an adjoining room. That means when she was alone in the tomb, alone in the grave, she felt another accompany, she felt another fellow, she felt another person who will give her accompany. Okay, so when she saw that another person who was laying beside her tomb and adjoining room, it means in her adjacent room, in her congested room, in her side room, it means in her side grave, in her adjusted grave. Okay, so she saw another person who was laying in her side grave. That person was a male and she is female. He was, that person was died for truth. So here are the 2 points. The first one is died for beauty, the poet died for beauty, and the second man, he died for truth. And you see these 2 terms, truth and beauty, the beauty and truth are very identical, very same thing. The great poet, the great romantic poet John Keats, he said, beauty is truth, truth beauty. A beautiful things in the world that will be true. Suppose a flower that is very beautiful and that is very truth, will die. This is truth, that is why it is beautiful. So death is beautiful. Okay? We should make preparation for our death, and we should not fear about the death. We should have some achievements for going to the grave, for the death. Okay, so actually in a inner meaning, she had given us the advices to make preparation for the death, because if you die in a normal way, that will be a no significance. But if you die for truth, that means if you die for a great things, for doing something for humanity, for giving something humankind, that means you will be immortalized. So these 2 terms, the truth and the beauty, is very identical. So this was the first stanza, and now let us turn on to the second stanza. In the second stanza, we will find a question and answer. Okay, the adjoining rooms, that means the male person who was laying beside her, he questioned actually. Okay, I am reading the text. He questioned softly why I failed. For beauty I replied. This is the question and answer sessions. The man who was laying beside her, he asked her why the poet died. Failed means die. Okay, so why the poet died, or how the poet died? And the poet answered, for beauty. I died for beauty. This was the answer. The man, he is answering himself, and I for truth, the next line, and I for truth, the 2 are one. That means the man, he said, I died for truth. And he said that these 2 terms are very similar. That means you and I are very similar, because you have the same purposes and objectives that I had also. Okay, and so as kinsmen's metonyme. Kinsmen means relative, the blood related relative. So they felt each other that they are the relatives, because their motto, their purpose and their objective is the same. That is why they felt that they are the kinsmen, they are the relatives, they are the blood related relatives. And they met a night, that means they had a great discussions, they had a great conversation, and they didn't feel the boring, and they didn't feel lonely. And now let us turn on to the third stanza. This is the final stanza. The third stanza, the first line is, we talked between the rooms. That means they were talking, they were discussing, they were making gossip, and they had a great discussions. The rooms means in their graves. Okay, they are the dead persons, but they had a great discussions in their grave. until the moss had reached our lips. You know the moss. Moss means a small flowerless green plant that lacks true roots. That means the green plants with flowerless that didn't have any roots. That is called moss. It is a very scientific terms. Okay, moss. She said, until the moss had reached our lips. That means their discussions, their conversations went on infinity. That means their discussions never ended. Their discussion is going on and on. It will never end. Until the moss had reached our lips. That means moss or grass or any other shrubs will cover their graves, will cover their tombs and covered up our names. You know the Christians, their names were written in their tombs. That is called the epitaph. Okay, that means when the moss, when the grass or when any other shrubs or trees will cover their names in that tomb, we brethren are, he said. That means the man, he said that we are brethren, we are brothers, we are relatives, we are cousins, and we are brothers and sisters, he said. So this was the end of the poem, and you see the poem is very easy. And what will be the theme of the poem? Let us know. So what shall be the theme? You know, in this poem the poet here emphasizes the theme of beauty and truth. Okay, the poet means to say that truth and beauty are identical. That means it is very same, and there is no difference between truth and beauty. They are portrayed as parallel in various ways. The poet also implies that even such great principles as beauty and truth are subjects to the ravages of time. Okay, so that is the end of the classes. That's all. Thanks and best of luck. See you in the next class. And if you like my video, then subscribe my channel, and if you already subscribed, then thank you very much. That's all.